probably don't need any introduction, Antony Gough. It's fantastic to have you here today to share some of your insights with us. And I'm so stoked to see that you're wearing GT purple brand, so
of course.
It looks fantastic.
Nothing less.
I really appreciate some of the views that you have around what's happening in our city, and also around tenancies, being a commercial landlord. So I'm quite interested to ask questions around that area.
Well, I think one of the things people don't realise is that landlord-tenant relationships, it's very much a partnership. And the sort of Dickens old days of, the man sitting in his counting house out the back and screwing the poor tenant. Hey, it's well gone. And if you don't work with your tenant, you don't have good tenants. And hey, we're in one of my tenants' premises here, and as you can see, no problem to come in here. They work with us very, very well. We work with them, we're sympathetic, and we've done all sorts of funny deals to make sure that they stay with me, because I don't want to lose any tenants, and I haven't lost any in the any of the shutdowns that have happened. We're still alive with all our tenants.
That's fantastic, isn't it? It's really good that you've been able to have that relationship with them. Yeah, I'm interested to hear about what you've seen happening in the city post-lockdown in terms of activity, and has it surprised you?
Yes, it did. First of all, lockdown was, everything was shut down, and so for our hospo tenants, we actually ended up not charging them rent for the whole time on level 4 and level 3 lockdown. And then we said, we'll write 50% of that rent off, and the remaining, please pay it back over 30 months starting in 2022. So it's a long way off. And it works at about $100 a week. They'll pay back at a later date. Yeah,
it's great that you've been able to work with your tenants to help them through this situation.
And then once we came out and they were able to trade at level 2, which is what we're in at the moment, where you've got distancing and table service only and all that sort of thing, we were concerned with our tenants and said, we'll charge you 50% rent. We'll look at your GST returns from this year and last year, compare it, and we'll top it up to match. So if let's say you're doing 80% of turnover, then the rent will rise up to 80% of what it should have been. We've already had half our hospo tenants say, don't bother, bill us full rent, please.
That's fantastic.
They're trading better than what they were a year ago. So that says something. If you're in the right area, you're doing okay in the hospo. If you're in the wrong area, we're killing areas of Christchurch, and they should never have opened. Things like St Asaph Street and Victoria Street, they're hurting. And yes, I'm a direct result of that. And there'll be probably something like, I would think 1/3 of all hospos will have closed from what there was at the beginning of the year.
Well, hopefully things will improve and that we can come out of lockdown over the next week or so.
Because sooner than that.
Especially your hospitality tenancies, they are feeling the pinch, across the city from social distancing restrictions on them. Yeah. So in terms of the central city and I guess the vibrancy and the busyness of that, what have you seen post lockdown?
It came back with a vengeance. Last time, over when we got to level 2, we were surprised. I was, for me to, and by the way, my offer of 50% rent runs through to the 1st of October, so I took a long-term view and said, we'll review it then. And I said, you can call up for it at any time with my hospo tenants, and some have just called for it now. But in this game, it's very much a long term. It's like a landlord. Hey, I'm not in it for this year. I'm in it long term. Yeah. You'd never survive if you're in it for the 1 year only.
No, absolutely. What impact do you think that that COVID and lockdowns could have on further central city development? It's been vital to have developments such as the Terrace, and there's still a long way for the city to go. So how do you think that's going to be impacted going forward?
I think it's going to slow it right down. I think there's not a great deal of building to go on. So what we are going to see, however, is that if you wanted to build something, this is a great time to go out and get a building built. Like I've got a patch of land, 1,000 square metres, which I'm got signed up to a hotel group who are just doing their due diligence. And they said, terrible time to have hotels, great time to build one, because they take 3 years to build.
Exactly.
And by the time it's built, they would have got the cheap labour, cheap sourcing because the builders are desperate for work and got a brand
Tourism
new
will be
hotel.
back. Yeah.
So I think there are certain, you've just got to look around and say, like, we're just building a car park and it's opening this week. And that'll be great. And it's 450 spaces.
I'm very excited. I'm going to park there myself.
So am I. And it's a beautiful car park. But the council's very keen on removing car parks in the centre city because they think we all should be taking the bus or riding the bike. Well, that's actually 80% of people don't do that.
No.
They take cars and they need to run off to...
Need the flexibility.
And you have clients that are out of town that want you to call them
Absolutely.
and see them. See, you're not going to take the bus out to Sumner to see a Sumner client, let's be honest. So you know, that's an area that I think there's growth. Like around the hospital, why don't they just farm it out to a private enterprise and say, you build a car park for the hospital and take the revenue? Or north of the square, you know, we've got a convention centre being built. Oh, where's the car park building? Haven't even thought about it. You know, so I think
there's not one on that side, is there?
yes, so I still see these opportunities.
Yeah.
And the trick of commerce is look for the opportunity and grab it.
Absolutely.
So I think there are opportunities. I think there are office buildings. We won't see many of those built. We've got all these people who think they can work from home. My answer to that is, if you think you can work from home just as satisfactorily, then that opens the market up for your employer to consider where else they might get the employment. India's a cheap place to get
It
work
does.
done.
It's a very interesting point, isn't it? Because, you know, I think we've all had a view previously that maybe it's not that easy to work from home. And then we were forced to work from home and actually said, hey, this is all right. We were quite fortunate. We'd invested in technology and Microsoft Teams. So we found the technology side, we were well enabled. I do wonder whether there's a balance between doing both because but a lot of people really need the social side as well.
Having meetings with Zoom and that is, you can't body read, and I body read people all the time.
Yeah.
And look for the reaction and think, oh, perhaps I stood on somebody's toe there. But through Zoom you can't see that.
No, I know. I was talking to your property manager, Anna, about that as well, and she reiterated the importance of the face-to-face meetings, especially if you're talking to your tenancies about your arrangements and negotiating. That it's really not easy to do things like that over email versus sitting down and just nutting it down together. So there is a fine balance, isn't there?
Yes, it's quite nice, you know, if you could be home with your children, but they are a distraction.
Very much so. I can vouch for that one. It's very, very hard to work with kids running around behind you, but yeah, what can you do when schools are closed?
You don't have any choices.
Yeah.
And you know, as soon as I could, I said to my staff, no, you're back in the office. I'll let the odd day off to go and work from home, and Anna probably does one day a week at home and the rest are in my office. And
so do you think your office tenancies might take a different view on the amount of office space that they need to have going forward? If they can, you know, have less desks, have some people working from home, hot desking, do you think that's going to change?
I think they'll review it. There's definitely that's going to happen. Whether it will have a significant effect, I don't know. Some businesses, no business sits still, and everyone thinks, oh, you know, got my space, that's great. It doesn't work like that. So you're either expanding or you're attracting, and COVID-19 perhaps is a faster attraction and working from home, but you also might be outgrowing your business, so you perhaps need that home situation where you can have some of your staff quietly working from home and not have to increase your office space. We're actually getting a surprising number of office inquiries, believe it or not,
wow,
right
that's
now.
Fantastic.
Like I've got 3 at the moment on my desk that we're talking to, and everyone said, "Oh, there's no interest." Bullshit is what I say. It's there.
So you're still confident of being able to fill vacant tenancies at the moment, and you've obviously worked with your existing tenants to keep them going as well.
So I haven't lost
That's
any
really
of my
positive.
existing.
Yeah.
And I've also just let a hospitality set of premises since the COVID, between the 2 COVID lockdowns.
Great.
So I've signed one of those off. So you've just got to keep that fishing line.
Shows a wee bit of
hanging out.
confidence, does it?
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. I think, you know, we need to have a positive outlook on this, and that it is a short-term issue, and that we are going to get through it. So that's really good.
I think you've also got to be prepared to support your tenants, and perhaps more so than you might have done in the past.
Yeah. How have you seen impacts on mental health and people's well-being, stress levels? How have you dealt with that?
Try to watch it carefully. It's much higher than it used to be, and we all go through stress for one reason or another, and it's trying to be sympathetic to people and trying to recognise it early and say, do you need to take the afternoon off? Sure, don't have a coffee, whatever. I think you're right, there's a lot more mental stress, and we don't like to talk about it too much, but it is there.
How have you been supported by the local government? And is there anything that they could have done differently to support you during the lockdown?
Well, it'd be nice to see a bit of sympathy on the side of rent or anything else, but actually the only legislation that was proposed was to meddle in my contracts with my tenants. And they actually need to stay away from that. That's, if you're too tough on your tenants, you'll lose your tenants. It's quite simple. It's a cutthroat game, this, and you've got to work with your tenants. I work very closely with my tenants so I don't lose them, because it's real simple to lose them, very hard to
get them back. Absolutely.
So you're much better to look after the people you've got and make sure you don't lose them unless they're really totally useless.
Unless they're not paying their rent anyway. Yeah.
Yes.
So take a long-term view on your relationship. What sort of advice do you have, should we need to go through further landlord-tenant discussions around rent and lockdowns? What suggestions do you have on how landlords and tenants should approach each other in this conversation in a way that's going to, engage in a more mutual conversation?
I can leave it alone. Let business play the field out. Those that are landlords too rough on their tenants will destroy any relationship that they've got with them. You need that. I keep talking about partnerships, landlord-tenants. We pride ourselves on a very close partnership with our tenants. I'm available to any of my tenants anytime. Like you rang me up and said, "Oh, Antony, to have an interview?" No problem. That's so important to maintain it and be available.
Yeah.
And
we appreciate it.
Yes. Well, it's a two-way street. You get rung up by me about all sort of technical things and said, "Oh, I do it slightly differently, Antony," and that's good. I need that direction. I'm always out there pushing the barrow, pushing the limits, and you're just keeping me on the legal side. That's good.
How have you felt supported by us during the lockdown, by Grant Thornton?
Oh, very good, because you answer the phone. And we say, "Oh, I'm thinking of doing this or thinking of doing that." And you say, "Oh, I do it slightly differently if I was you," and that's good. There's laws to do with trusts that are coming up that are going to change, and you've been advising me helpfully on that area, and it's way outside my realm of it's new legislation that's come in that I've yet to sort of deal to. So, and we were talking about car parks and making sure they're tax deductible and the company that's renting its name and they don't get caught for fringe benefits tax, and some curious twists of the law around that one. I actually think that the legal fraternity and the accountancy fraternity should be actually doing a lot better, because people like me, I seek more advice from legal teams and accountants now than I used to, and that's all chargeable time, and that's good.
Chargeable time is good in our industry.
Yes, of course it is. and you shouldn't have needed to put off any staff in your game. It's just a case of making sure that the clients who asked you to do work will pay you. That's the biggest risk.
Yeah, it is an issue, But we've been working really hard with our clients to make sure they're in a strong position. And by and large, it's actually been quite fascinating what we've been seeing. And it's similar to, conversations we've had around what you've seen in the city, is that businesses have actually been doing extraordinarily well and way better than we ever anticipated. And I do wonder if there's a tie into that to the Canterbury earthquakes, and given what we've already been through in the past, and we've had to just deal with it, live with it, and get on with what we need to do. Do you think that that having gone through that experience has had an impact on our resilience?
Yes, I think you're absolutely right in that regard. We've been hit. Sort of every 2 years we seem to get something that comes and smacks us around the gills, and we bounce back. And we bounce back so many times. You say, oh, there's another one to try me out. How do I get around this one? How do I handle it? And you're right, I'm noticing that the fact that all my tenants tell me don't bother about the discount, our GST returns would not justify it. Well, that's really nice. That's not what I expected. I really did expect that they'd be at half rent, but that's not happened, and I think that's wonderful. Christchurch never goes through the sort of the peaks and the hollows that perhaps Auckland goes through. We tend to be a sort of more even, and it's a sort of gentle wave of ups and downs, and I think that's really great for Christchurch.
So add our resilience into that, and it's I think it's kept us in a fairly strong position. And I got the feeling just from conversations that we had with various people that there may have been a more positive outlook in Canterbury than perhaps there was in the North Island, and that was pre the second wave of lockdown. So I'm sure that's probably just exaggerated a wee bit more now. So it's great news for what we've been seeing. Yes. Really exciting opportunities ahead. I think it shows us as well that our clients need to be able to change really quickly with the times, and they might find that the strategies and the things that they were thinking about working on previously just don't fit into the current environment. So and I think that's what Canterbury people are getting good at, is changing and moving and doing something different, because our environment keeps changing.
It's like the old farmer with the number 8 wire. You find a way around it, and we're very good at doing that.
We are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything that you've been seeing around the city that raises concerns with you?
I think the slowness of the anchor projects worries me.
Right.
That they're just so conservative, like the covered arena. That we hit COVID-19, so we have to reassess the business model. I can tell you what the business model is. It's not going to make money. Just accept it. It's like the surge system. It doesn't make money. Just get on it. We need it.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way about the covered stadium. You've also got the Metro Sports. Gosh, it's so slow. And Te Pae, the Convention Centre, wonderful facility. So we got shut down for 4 weeks of COVID-19, and we've just lost 4 months of delivery time.
Yeah.
Now, excuse me, but that doesn't make sense, and hey, the East Frame was meant to be a big residential block for the centre city. We need residential in centre city.
There's a lot of those projects that are quite central to the vibrancy of the city, and making it a destination and a place to go, isn't it? So you're right, some of those anchor projects are not necessarily going to be income earning for the city, but they're very important to have to help people want to live here and make it a fantastic place to live.
Well, I did always wonder why they called them the anchor projects, and I've realised now they're stuck in the ground going nowhere, like an anchor. It's a bit cruel, isn't it?
If we go into further lockdown, which could well happen, what are the top 3 priorities that you're going to focus on?
I would say we should be aiming to try and get the economy running as fast as we can, do regional lockdowns. So if the West Coast has got nothing, let them run themselves at level 1. What in the heck are we locking people down? Be regional, and I think not doing that enough. And personally, I think we should be looking to say New Zealand's is a unique position for tourism. We could actually open the doors to tourists and say, you want to come to New Zealand, you'll do a 14-day quarantine, tick the box which sort of hotel you'd like to be in. Oh, you want to be a 5-star hotel? That'll be $10,000 then for the 2 weeks. And then say, right, and you've got a 3-month visa, and we want to see the money in the bank to make sure you actually can stay here. So we could end up as the exclusive tourism place of the world and use that to our advantage. And I think we've got a huge potential there, but we're not going there at the moment.
What do you think the chances are of getting something like that through?
Well, I'm planning to talk to some people about that one, because I think that would be a huge asset to New Zealand. Imagine if you're a wealthy American and you thought, gee, I don't like the way that we seem to have far too many deaths and COVID-19s. if I could turn around and take a 3-month holiday in a country that's super safe, you'd be double down there as quick as possible. And tough, you take a 2-week holiday in a nice hotel. And my attitude about quarantine, if you break the quarantine and leave the hotel, well, we've got another place for you, it's called prison. And then you won't leave.
Yeah. Takes everyone to stick to the rules to make it work, doesn't it, for the greater good? Yeah.
And you give a couple of people a couple of prison sentences and suddenly they take it a bit more seriously that we're serious about quarantine. So that's where I think we should be going, is bringing a tourism into New Zealand of the wealthy overseas people, and we could then lift our productivity and our incomes overnight.
So my last question for you, Antony, is if you had to pick one positive thing that had come out of this, what would that be?
It would have to be that I'm much closer working relationship with tenants and an opportunity to sell the care factor that a landlord is often not seen as having. So if you play it right, it's turning a negative into a positive, and that's what I've been able to do with COVID shutdowns, and my tenants were very much closer with us than they have in the past.
Yeah, I'm sure that they appreciate that relationship. Yeah. It's been absolutely fantastic talking to you today, and you've brought us some very interesting insights, and thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Not at all. My pleasure, and it's great working with Grant Thornton. I have to say they've been a huge help for me.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Good.